Hi, in this video I'm going to be talking about Newton's first law of motion, and to help explain it I'm going to talk about inertia. So inertia was first devised by a guy named Galileo, and what Galileo said is that things maintain their velocity. So in other words, when a thing is at rest, it's going to remain at rest, and if a thing is in some motion with a constant speed and moving in a straight line, it's going to keep that speed and keep moving in a straight line. So what Isaac Newton did. Isaac Newton's a guy in the 1600s. Is a genius guy. This is probably one of the biggest scientists to ever come around. There was two scientists that I find had the most big things done in science, which was Albert Einstein and Isaac Newton. Isaac Newton discovered the laws of motion, the universal law of gravitation. He invented calculus. He discovered that white light is made up of every color of the visible light spectrum. And he's just a genius. Like I said, him and Albert Einstein, I find, came up with the most big things in science. So what Isaac Newton did, he came around and he added to inertia, what Galileo said. And Galileo said things keep doing. He pretty much said things maintain their velocity. And what Isaac Newton says is things maintain their velocity unless an unbalanced force is applied to them. So a force is a push or a pull. So in other words, let's say an object's at rest, it's going to remain at rest unless I push it with a force that's not countered by another force, or that's not balanced by another force. So like let's say I push onto this pencil, I'm pushing it, but it's not moving. Even though I'm pushing it, it's balanced by another force that's pushing this way. And if I push it with an unbalanced force, it's gonna move it from staying at rest. And an object that's in some constant motion, that's in some motion with a constant speed, and moving in a straight line, it's going to keep doing that unless I push it or pull it with an unbalanced force. It'll change its direction, and it'll speed up or slow down. Well, these ideas sound unintuitive because, think about it. If I was to push something, it's not going to maintain its velocity. It's gonna start slowing down. If I let's say I push something, let's say you're driving in your car, and you let go of the gas, and you don't press the brakes, and it starts to slow down. It doesn't keep its speed. Well, that's because there's friction. There's friction. There's air resistance. There's friction on the ground, and it doesn't. It's unintuitive to the first law of motion. But the first law of motion is still true. It's just because there's friction and there's air resistance. If you was to go in outer space where there's no really air at all, it's empty, it's almost completely empty, then whenever you push something or have something at rest, when you push something, it's going to keep that speed and move in a straight line. Even if you don't have, like, if you're not pushing it to make it do that, if you pushed it, it would stop it from having a straight line motion with a constant speed. So, Newton's first law is different from Newton's second law, which I'm going to talk about in the future. Newton's second law actually defines force. And Newton's first law tells you, it doesn't tell you how does the velocity change when an unbalanced force is applied. Newton's second law does. So it could be, let's say, it could be a constant acceleration. It could be a constant jerk, which is a type of change in acceleration. It could be there's other types of change in velocity that it might be. It doesn't tell you, and you can't really know without experimentation anyway. So anyway, Newton's second law doesn't tell you what happens whenever you don't apply a force. It just tells you what happens whenever you do apply a force. And that's why the first and second law is different and should not be confused as being the same exact law. They're not. They're two different laws. And as far as Newton's first law goes, that's pretty much everything I had to share. And if you liked the video, like, share, and subscribe. See you later.